in order for someone to have trust in you and what you're telling them, you have to already be there. The saying is, in order to lift someone up, you have to be standing on higher ground. Okay. So start small, but that's how this goes. If you can get enough people to $1,000 a month, you will be making 10 grand a month. And if you can get enough people to 10 grand a month, you will be making 100 grand a month. That's the way it works. Be consistent with your promises. Like when you say you're going to do something, do it. If there's one thing that leads to distrust, is making promises and then not doing it. So if you say you're going to do it, go through with it, whatever that is. Like if you say you're going to do the Zoom or you're going to do the home meeting or you're going to do the training, don't get sick the night before. Be a professional. Like if you got something big to do the next day, take all the steps you need the day before to be ready like a pro. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another podcast, another episode. I think this is 34. Today, we are going to be talking about how to build trust in your team and with your leaders. I'm going to give you a few bullet points for you to consider. And I believe this is probably one of the biggest things everyone should be focused on is building trust. Because if you can build the trust, then you can build a team, which then allows you to have all the benefits of building a network marketing organization, the thriving team. But you got to establish trust inside the organization. It's what allows people in your team to get through the hard parts of this business. So making a few $100 a week, not hard. Making a couple $1,000s a week, harder. But going from amateur to pro, well, that is hard. That's hard. And it takes a while. It doesn't happen in the first year or 2 years normally. It takes longer. It takes years. I've actually recently heard it said that if you're still just in the business a year later, forget making money. If you're just still in the company and in the business a year later, you've won. Like most people, that blows their mind. Like, the thought of not making any money for a year, and that's winning. Well, I can tell you, if you've ever owned a traditional type business that you invested thousands of dollars in, rarely are any of those people making money, like have all their debt paid off in the first year. That's usually years of debt before they have it paid off and they're making money. Okay. Just because money's coming in doesn't mean you've made money. Like if you got $5,000 a week coming into your traditional business, but you borrowed 500 grand, you still have a long way to go. You got lots of $5,000 weeks to pay off $500,000. Okay. That is the beauty of network marketing is you get in the business for pennies. It's nothing. Right. But what's tough with network marketing is all of the other intangibles, the things that really you can't even explain until you go through. Whether that is seeing parts of your team grow then shrink back, seeing things within the company change outside of your control that affects your organization. I could go on and on. Just things change in your organization, in your business, and it is difficult for people to get through because they will go through doubt, just like you went through doubt when you were building your team. If you're over that kind of magical 20 grand a month in income, think about all the doubt you had along the way that this was real, much less if it was going to work. I remember when we got our first $20,000 check and my wife was like, we are not spending that because I don't know how many more of those checks we're going to get, right? It was almost like, pinch me, is this for real type thing. Well, the reality is it took a lot of work for us to get there. And there were a lot of moments leading up to that where we wanted to quit. And it was because I had trust in a few people in our organization that helped me. I was able to get through those moments. There's even some people on the corporate side that I had trust. It's not just all in the field. This could be, someone in the corporate side that helped you get through these sticky points. But for those of you listening to this now, most of us are in the field building team. So that's who this podcast is for. So it's those moments where they want to quit or they just don't believe that they need to trust you so that they can hang on long enough to get their breakthrough. Okay, so here's a few things. Number one, you've got might should have go without saying, but in order for someone to trust that you can get them to 20 grand a month or whatever that full-time number is, you need to be making that already yourself. So you may be saying, well, wait a second, Brandon, like, you know, does that mean I'm not making 20 grand a month, so none of this applies to me? No, it starts smaller because listen, no one joins your team thinking they're going to make 20 grand a month. Most people, if they can make $1,000 a month, they would be happy. So what do you have to do first? You've got to get to $1,000 a month. It means you need to work with someone that you trust that's making more than $1,000 a month so that you can get to $1,000 a month. And then once you're there, start working with someone that's making 10 grand a month because you're making 1,000. So have enough trust in them because they're making 10 grand a month that you can make 10 grand a month if you do the things they tell you to do by mimicking their business, not just watching their lips move, because that's horrible. A leader that's lips are moving and their feet are not moving, that's a horrible, horrible, disgusting thing. That is a fake leader, okay? Don't watch people's lips, you watch their feet. That is what you will, that's the people, that's the leaders to follow, okay? Not what I did, what I'm doing, all right? Now, once you get to 10 grand, if your goal is 20, then next step over, right? Like you need to be working and trusting in someone making 20 grand a month so that you can get there, right? So number one, guys, is in order for someone to have trust in you and what you're telling them, you have to already be there. The saying is, in order to lift someone up, you have to be standing on higher ground. Okay. So start small, but that's how this goes. If you can get enough people to $1,000 a month, you will be making 10 grand a month. And if you can get enough people to 10 grand a month, you will be making 100 grand a month. That's the way it works. Okay. Next thing is be consistent with your promises. Like when you say you're going to do something, do it. If there's one thing that leads to distrust is making promises and then not doing it. So if you say you're going to do it, go through with it, whatever that is. Like if you say you're going to do the Zoom or you're going to do the home meeting or you're going to do the training, don't get sick the night before. Like be a professional. Like if you got something big to do the next day, take all the steps you need the day before to be ready like a pro. Okay. So that you are ready to go. Just as I said on last week's episode, be ridiculously consistent. And that will start to build some trust inside your organization. Okay. The next thing is communication. You're going to have to communicate at a high level. Like, I mean, communicate. That's funny. Communicate clearly, but regularly. This is big. There were times where I could just feel like that my organization where I was losing touch with different parts of my organization. And what I would do is I would put notifications in my phone to reach out and talk so that I made sure I had this rhythm. So I will tell you, like, based on, like, let's say it is your goal to get to 20 grand a month. Well, in order for you to get to 20 grand a month, you're probably going to have one or two people making 10 grand a month in your organization. So the more someone makes in your organization, the more frequently, the more regular you need to be in communication with. So if you want to make 20 grand a month, then you need to be talking almost daily to your 10 grand earners, checking in with them, planning, communicating, dropping messages, like almost daily communication. And that shouldn't be overwhelming because we're literally talking about 1, 2, or 3 people. If you're wanting to get to 20 grand, you literally only have to talk to 1 or 2, 3 people that regular in order for you to get there. Okay. Now, if you're wanting to get to 20 grand a month and maybe you're at 10 grand a month, that means you've got maybe 6 or 7 or 8 people making around 1,000 a month or 2,000 a month. Well, it doesn't mean you got to talk to all of them every day, but certainly every week. There needs to be a cadence there. So what I'm saying is, in your team, know who you need to talk to daily. And if they're reaching out to you and they're that big of a leader in your team, don't let that go days and days or weeks without communicating with them. Okay. And I know everybody gets busy. There's seasons where you might be a few days where you're not communicating with some people, and that's okay. But it can't be that way week in and week out, because if it is, that person will not trust you anymore. That trust will start to open. There'll be gaps, and you know that's not good. Where there's gaps, maybe the water leaks in and things get ruined. Okay, so just be really consistent and regular in your communication. Um, I would say no matter what, you're gonna have to show high levels of respect for your leaders in your team and people in your team, and be empathetic to their situation. Don't just blanketly say, well, this is how I did it and I was able to do it this way, so you should be able to do it this way. No, everybody's situation is different. You're going to have to be empathetic to the situations, and you're going to have to respect that not everyone is just like you. People are a little, listen, yeah, there's the saying, birds of a feather flock together. But the reality is that when you build a big organization, at some point, you start to lose influence in your own organization, meaning the people that are getting attracted to your organization are being attracted by the people that are recruiting them. Like your team, you guys, you're never getting to 20 grand a month if you're out recruiting your team. Like if you are personally putting more customers and more business partners into the team than your team is collectively, oh my gosh, man, you've got some serious issue. You got serious systems issues. You got serious communication issues. You got serious skill-based talent issues that are not being trained or learned to fix. Okay. So it will be done a little bit differently than you. Be empathetic to that. Be respectful. Okay. Um, the next thing is don't put off this air that you're perfect. Because, I mean, if your team thinks you're perfect and you do everything right all the time, then they're going to think that they're not perfect, so they can't be like you. I can't even tell you how many times I get messages from people saying, thank you for being human. Thank you for showing that you make mistakes too. Your team will love that. If you want to earn someone's trust, show that you're human. Show that you make mistakes. Now, no one's going to follow someone that keeps making the same mistakes over and over, right? Like there's a balance between showing your mistakes and repeating your mistakes. Okay, that's a big, that's completely different, two different worlds. Okay. So I'm not saying that you just every day or just said, oh, I made a mistake again. Oh, I made a mistake again. And your team is watching this happen. That's not what I'm talking about. I hope you know what I'm saying here, what I'm getting at. You also are going to have to provide value for the team. And this is a big one. When my team at certain times, they would come to me, leaders, and they're like, hey, I think it's time for me to do my own call, my own team call. I was like, fantastic. I think you should. I think that's awesome. Because if I don't do that, then they're going to think I'm holding them back. They're going to think they should be on someone else's team. That I am the only one that wants to be the leader. So no. You want to do a call? Fantastic. Let's do it. Now, a lot of times those same people would come back to me and say, man, like it started off great. We had 50 people on the call, and then now we've only got 12, and it's the same 12 every week. Okay, this is the brutal truth. You want to know why that is? It's because you're not bringing value to the call. Because if you were bringing value to the call, the numbers would be growing every week to some degree, or if not every week, every quarter or every year, they'll be growing. Like if you go 6 months and your team call is not growing, That's either you're not bringing value or you guys are just not bringing new people into the business. So there are no new people to get on the call, if you follow what I'm saying. But value, guys, bring value. So, I mean, everything I do is planned out. These podcasts are planned out. I don't just put on the record button and lights and we just start talking. That's not the way this works. There is effort put in so that I can provide value. Now, some of my team calls are not as good as the ones as others, and I can feel it sometime, and I feel awful because I'm like, man, like those folks put 30 minutes of their time in. I don't know if I gave them the best 30 minutes. I just work harder the next time that there's value. So make sure you're providing value. Okay. Um, I've said consistency before, but I'm going to say it a little bit differently this time. Um, your team needs to see you being consistent in all phases of your business. Meaning, if you start something, you finish it. You're not constantly starting and stopping, changing things like, oh, no, we're going to do it this way in our team. No, 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 we're going to do it this way in our team. There needs to be some fundamental principles. Like, here's one of the principles in my team that it's always been. You need weekly contact with your team, monthly contact with your team, and quarterly contact with your team. And all three of those are different style events. Weekly, monthly, quarterly. Weekly, monthly, quarterly. They should all have a different look, a different feel with a different intent and different content. Weekly, monthly, quarterly. Okay. Just be consistent in that behavior. Your team will start to just know, like your team, like you guys, your team is just like you are. Like if you go in a room and you hit the light switch and the light comes on, great. But the next day you come on and the switch, you hit the switch and it doesn't come on. You're like, what's going on? And the next day you come in and it's on. And then the next day it's on. But then the third day it's off again. Like by the fifth or sixth day, when you go in the room to put the light on, are you kind of even guessing if you're going to have light? Are you starting to like maybe look for a flashlight before you go in the room? Because the last time the switch wasn't on, you couldn't see, so you need a flashlight. So now you're kind of like, you don't want your team doing that. You don't want your team wondering what they're going to get next. Okay, so you've got to be consistent wherever there's, you wouldn't trust that switch. You would say, hey, I got to fix that switch because I don't trust it. It's not going to work. Same thing with a car. Like if the car didn't start, it started, then no, it didn't start one day. Well, then you missed work. Well, by the third or fourth time that happening, you're not trusting that car anymore. So you got to take other action so that you don't get the results of a car that doesn't work, like being late for work or school or what have you. Don't be that leader in your team. Be the consistent leader so your team can trust it's happening so they can plan their lives around your team actions, team event, team huddles, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Just be really, really, really consistent there. You're going to also want to make sure that you're putting your team's interest before yours. Listen, the only way to grow a bigger paycheck is to make bigger sacrifices. The saying is next level, next devil. Meaning when you're gonna level up, when you want to grow your organization, when you want to grow your paycheck, it comes with another set of problems, another set of obstacles, another set of hurdles. Okay. And so you need to make sure that you are putting other people's interest first, which comes at sacrifice to you. That's the difference. The people that are making the bigger paychecks have just made more sacrifices. They've made tougher decisions. And it may sound silly, like, you know, uh, I love to fish. Well, I can promise you there's a lot of days where I spent time with my team where I really wanted to be fishing, but I put their interests first. There's a lot of times where I want to do things with my kids or my wife, but I put team interests first. Now, don't get it twisted. We live a very, very balanced, prioritized life in our house. So my kids are way priority before my business. Okay. My family comes before my business. So don't get it twisted. But there were times that I did want to be with my family that I decided I needed to be with the team. So I was putting their interests first in that situation. Okay. Um, but like, I mean, on our Monday night, we do Monday night huddles. You guys, to be honest with you, There's a lot of Monday nights where I don't want to be on Zoom. I'd rather be with my wife, but I'm putting my team's interests, wants, needs before me. Okay. So you're going to have to protect that interest. Make sure you're putting them before you. All right. The next thing is you're going to have to be accessible to the team. You're going to have to be available. They're going to have to they need to know that they can reach you. They need to know that they have a connection with you. All right. So that's going to be big in you growing your business. Trust will also come, as we said already, from a high level of communication, but trust will come when people feel like you care about them. I think it would be very hard to gain someone's trust if they don't feel like you care about them. So one of the ways you can prove to them that you care about them is being accessible, being someone that they can reach out to and talk to. Don't be that leader that, you know, oh my gosh, guys, I've seen some situations where literally these leaders would come in these rooms and they would have like bodyguards. It's so ridiculous. Like, oh my gosh, like who do you think you are? Yeah, you might make a lot of money, but I mean, come on. Stop it. Okay, like you don't have to put like ropes around. If that's what you're doing, putting ropes around yourself, I've seen some leaders do that. Like it, that's gross. That's silly. Okay, don't. John Maxwell said this. He said a lot of things that are just so powerful. But he said to me once, "Walk slow through the crowd." Now, I'm going to tell you, I'll be honest. There's been times where I am just so beat down from the big weekends where we're on stage and literally 4 or 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 people in the room, and people want to come up and talk to you, and there's like literally a line of people that want to talk to you, standing around, and it's intense. It's intense because I don't want to be rude. I don't want people to walk away. Um, but at some point, your brain just like you can't probably have any more conversations, and so yeah, there's times where I'm like, I can't walk through this room because I literally like I'm starving and I'm gonna collapse if I don't eat. And if I go through this room, it's another hour of conversation. So I will take a back door. Yes, that does happen sometimes. But if I'm not starving and about to collapse, and there's been times where I had to like use the restroom. I've been talking for so long. I mean, I can't stop and talk. Like I had a bathroom. Um, but for the majority of time, as Maxwell said, walk slow through the room. And what he means is just be a human. Come on. Like just look people in the eyes, make them feel important to you. Like that's probably one of the biggest things in gaining someone's trust is making them feel important. And you're only going to do that by slowing down and having meaningful conversations and being accessible. Okay. And I would say lastly, it can't always be you. It can't always be your ideas. Like if everything has to be your idea, then everything's going to have to be your idea, which means you're not building leaders. Be a leader that the team knows you can collaborate with. The team knows that you want them to collaborate with you. A good leader actually is getting their team's buy-in and giving letting the team take credit for the stuff you actually create. I love it when that happens. We put stuff out, the team puts stuff out, and our team leaders are saying, we created this. I love that because that means they feel like they were a part because they were a part of it. I mean, even if it was 100% my idea, but they came in and they participated, they feel like it's theirs. And that is important. And it's even better to step back with some of those leaders. Like we said in the beginning of this podcast, you may have 2 or 3 big leaders, right? 4 leaders. Go to those 3 or 4 leaders and get their input if things need to change. Does this system need to be changed? Does the way this call happens, does that need to change? Get their input and then allow their input to be put into action. That creates trust in an organization. That is a collaborative powerful way to build an organization. So I could give you some more stuff, but I think that's enough for this version of the this podcast. And who knows? I think we finally made it through this one without any more interruptions with the power and Wi-Fi. But trust is everything, guys. Trust is everything in building your organization, and it's what's going to allow you to get through the rough stuff. Okay, when the seas get bumpy, they better trust the captain, or there may be a mutiny. Okay, I'm just saying. So, anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you can go back and listen to this one. If you're not making 20 grand a month, I just gave you the recipe on how. I gave you some tips on how to do that. And if you are making 20 grand a month, I also gave you a recipe here how to make much more than 20 grand a month. Just go back and listen again. So you guys have a great week. We will talk to you guys next week.